Can I screen share and still do this at the same time? Is that how that? What I'm thinking.
Hello.
Hi, so we're supposed to have about 70 people who registered, so we're just gonna wait and give a couple minutes for people to sign in and then we'll get started.
Okay, thank you.
Give a couple more minutes and then we'll get started just for sake of time. We would like to try to stick to about an hour for this, so we'll try to be mindful of your time.
Okay, I have to drop off at 10 because I have a work meeting till noon.
And that is fine. So we are recording this. So
Okay.
and we send it out. So if anybody couldn't come or if they have to leave early, you can view whatever you missed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sarah Ash, how do I make it so that you can let people in so that we can start just for sake of time? Do I have to?
I can do it. I can see it now.
You can just see it from your end? Okay.
Yep,
So
I can
then-
see everyone, so I should be able to see that. Yep.
Screen share and then. Can everybody see that?
Yes,
Okay. perfect.
Yes.
coffee with the counselors.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go over really quickly some, just kind of like, just before we get started, that this is recorded right now. So it will be sent out to families that could not make it, but also if you need to leave early, then you'll be able to have access to it. In the chat, if you have any questions, you can put questions in there and we'll try to answer them either as we go along or at the end. If you could, because there's about 50 people on here right now, mute yourself, then we just don't get any feedback. And then once we get started, there's going to be little videos. So if the videos are lagging, you might need to turn your screens off just to help with that. I think those were the basics. So let this other person in and then we will get started. See if I can move this on.
Yes, just letting you know, I didn't see that there was a person waiting, so it may not
Okay.
be showing for me like I thought it was.
I heard a ding.
Okay, yeah, I didn't, so.
Let me just see, let me make sure. No, it looks like everybody's in. Oops. I have to make sure, sorry, make sure I can get this to go away. Okay, so we're going to start with introductions, just so you know who we are. We're going to talk a little bit about the transition activities, most of which have already happened, but one more that will be coming up over the summer. You're going to see a video that will just allow you to meet, at least virtually, our 6th grade teachers, talk about a typical day, because when everybody registered, that seemed like that's where most of the questions were, just how the day functions here. And then we'll go over some tips and tools and resources for you. And then we'll have time at the end to do a Q&A if there's any questions you still have. So I feel like school counselors are a new person in your child's life come middle school. You may have had a social worker or a psychologist that they saw at the elementary school. We still have psychs and social workers here, but every student is assigned a school counselor, and that is by grade. So right now I am the 8th grade counselor. When my kids leave in a couple days, I will pick up the new class of 6th graders, and then I stay with them for 3 years so that I can form relationships with them and their families. So I will have 6th grade this year, and then I move up to 7th grade with them, and then on to 8th grade with them. Just a general, really quick, overview of what our role is here. We will talk more about this in the fall. We have another coffee just on our role and how we support your children here at school. But our job is really to help your child remove any barriers to being successful at school. So maybe they're having trouble making friends, or they're having peer issues, or they need help, strategies to better manage their time, or there's home stressors, things like that, that might impact them here at school. Our job really is to help them with those things. So a little bit about me. I'm Jess Stevenson. I've been a counselor for, over 20 years now. I've worked at the high school level for a little bit, but primarily I've been at middle school. I have a master's in mental health counseling. I have a specialization in child welfare and also in schools. I have at various times seen in private practice, college age kids individually. And in terms of just who I am as a person, I have the luxury of my husband travels for work. So in the summers I get to travel with him. So that is probably one of my biggest hobbies. I'm also a big believer in overall health. So I'm into fitness and nutrition and mind-body connection and anything to do with wellness. The 3 of us work really closely together. Our offices are all in the same space. So even though I will be your child's primary contact, there might be times where they meet Ashley or Sarah as well. We have a little space called the Zen Den. So if kids talked about their Toradol, you might have heard of that. Outside of our offices is a little calming space that kids can go to use strategies if they don't want to talk to somebody, but just need a couple minutes to calm down before they can return to class. So I'm now going to introduce Ashley, and she's just going to give you a little bit about herself, and then Sarah.
Hi, everyone. As Ms. Stevenson said, I'm the current 6th grade counselor, so I will be with grade 7 next year. This is my 12th year as a school counselor, but only my 2nd year here at McGee. I worked in Bloomfield previously at a 6 through 12 magnet school, so that's kind of my background experience. I earned my master's degree in educational psychology from the University of Connecticut. I also did my undergrad there, and I currently live in Cromwell with my 3 kids, and one of which is going into 6th grade next year also. So I am right there along with you, feeling the nerves and kind of navigating that with my son. So I definitely can empathize, and I hope that today's session kind of puts your mind at ease and also helps to put your kids at ease a little bit as well when you share the information with them.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hughes. I am currently the 7th grade school counselor, and next year I will be with the 8th graders. I've been here at McGee for 21 years. I spent the first part of my career here as the art teacher. If you have older children, my last name was Desmond at the time. And then I got my master's degree in school counseling, and I've been a school counselor here for 8 years. I live down in Chester with my husband and 3 young boys. One of mine is also going into middle school, but our middle school is 7-8. So even though I do this every day, I feel your fears also, and nerves about starting the middle school program.
Great. So just some of the things that your kids, hopefully they've talked about some of this stuff at home. A few weeks ago, I went to each individual elementary school and met with each of the classrooms, and we did a Kahoot, which is actually like a fun game that they log in on their computers, and we did trivia about middle school. So a lot of the information we're going to cover in this presentation, I already have spoken to your children about. It was also just a nice opportunity for me to get to know them a little bit and kind of see them in their natural habitat. They were really excited. So they've already had that experience. And then last week, all the elementary schools came up here individually by school to McGee, and they got to hear from and meet administration. They did not get to meet our teachers because our teachers were teaching. They just kind of got to peek into classroom windows. So we showed them a video that we're going to show you just of a welcome from the 6th grade teachers. And then they got tours and to ask questions, and the tours were led by current 8th grade students. So that was nice. They got to hear a student perspective and see some of our big 8th graders that I feel like when I went down to the elementary schools, they were really scared of. They were asking questions about how big the 8th graders were and were they going to see them in the hallways. So I'm hoping that that also made them feel a little bit more comfortable to know that the 8th graders usually are super excited to help them out versus somebody that they have to be afraid of. I think the elementary schools have also been doing a lot of just transition stuff, getting them talking and answering questions about middle school, and also trying to increase expectations a little bit so they knew what to expect and were ready for the challenges of middle school. And then over the summer, the day before school starts, you will have an opportunity for your child to come in with you, and they get a walk through the building with their actual teachers. So they'll get to meet their teachers. There's a meet and greet. They will get to figure out where all their classrooms are. And I believe they get their Chromebooks and stuff on that day as well. So that they have to look forward to, and that's usually the day before school starts.
Welcome to McGee. I'm Mrs. Seibel. I teach science, and I'm looking forward to learning about the world around you, having fun doing experiments and investigations. Can't wait to see you.
Hi, my name is Mrs. Burnham. I teach reading and writing for 6th grade. We are so excited to see you in the fall. I know you might be worried about your lockers, but don't worry, we'll help you with it all year long.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mrs. Mahaffey, and I'm the Teen 6B math teacher. I'm so excited to see you guys next year and looking forward to all the great things we're going to learn. Thanks.
Hey everybody, I'm Mrs. McCorkle. I teach reading and writing for 6th grade, so I can't wait to see you guys next year. And you get to take a look at all our new books, and we have lots of exciting things to learn, so I can't wait to see you.
Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Centerelli. I'm the grade 6 World Regions teacher. I'm very excited to see everybody next year here at McGee School. Have a terrific summer and see you next fall.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mrs. Botticello over at McGee. I teach 6th grade math.
Mr. Pelletier, science teacher. Hello.
Mrs. Guild, special education teacher.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Tarver, 6th grade ELA reading and writing.
Hi, guys. I'm Mrs. Prentice. I teach reading and writing ELA in 6th grade.
And I'm Mr. Rossi. I teach grade 6 World Regions.
We're here to tell you some bits of advice and some hints to get you ready for 6th grade. The first thing to remember is who you are. Just be yourself at McGee. Be open to new friends.
So you got a big challenge in front of you. You got a big mountain to climb. Coming in the 6th grade is a big thing. And in your mind, you're all scared. You're all worried. I get it. I was once there. We were all once there. My advice to you, take it one step at a time. If you take it one step at a time, eventually you'll reach the end goal, the big game.
The good news is that you are not alone. We are actually here and we're going to support you all the way. Do know this, that the other 6th graders feel the same way that you feel the first day of school. And as teachers, we have the same energy. We're ready to meet you.
One piece of advice I have for you is to be successful here in 6th grade. You want to make sure you remain organized, turn your assignments in on time, and know that we are always here for you.
And just not to be nervous, even though we know that you're going to be a little bit stressed coming in, everybody's feeling the same way. We're going to be here to help and do everything we can to make your first couple of days at McGee run smoothly. And before you know it, you're going to know what you're doing and you're going to love being here.
And finally, embrace the opportunities that are going to be presented to you by your new classmates and your teachers. Don't be afraid to fail. Trying new things is an important step in your learning, and we really can't wait to meet you. We hope you guys have a wonderful summer, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.
So those are some of the faces that will be greeting your children on the first day of school. And just so you know, I think a lot of the kids get really nervous thinking that they're going to get here and they're going to have to try to figure this all themselves. All of our 6th grade teachers are going to spend time with your kids in the first, actually really couple weeks to first month of school, helping them transition. They will walk them around the building again, give them another tour. They'll spend full 45-minute periods practicing lockers. By the end, they might be sick of lockers at that point because it will eventually, once it clicks for them, then usually they're fine for the next 3 years. So we do spend a lot of time in the first couple of weeks to literally the first month helping these kids transition into the building, learning how to set up systems and organize themselves and manage their time. So if that helps, even as a parent, just the nerves, I feel like for our kids, for them to hear that like reduce their anxiety a little bit, because I think they have this idea that they're going to walk in this building and they're just going to have to figure it all out on their own. And that will not be the case. So just a few differences between elementary school and middle school. I feel like these were some of the other questions that you guys had when you filled out the registration form. So elementary school, the biggest difference is the kids are with one teacher who teaches several subjects in that one classroom, and they're with those same 20 kids throughout the day. And once they get to middle school, they're actually on a team, and there's 100 kids that are on a team, which sounds like a lot, but in their individual classes, there's about 15 to 20 kids per class. They have the 5 academic teachers on that team. There's the math teacher, science, social studies. ELA is reading and writing in 5th grade. And so they will go through those classes with a mix of those 100 kids. So it's a way of making a bigger school feel really small, because in their individual classes, they will only have about 15 to 20 kids like they did in elementary school. But it's really good for kids that need the opportunity to make some new connections and want to make some new friends, because they're not just stuck with those 20 kids. They have access to those other 100 kids that are on their team. When they eat lunch, they will also be with the entire grade. So if maybe a good friend doesn't end up on their team, it's not like they won't be able to see that other student throughout the day. They will be transitioning to 7 different classes a day. So there's their 5 academics, and then they get 2 exploratory classes a day. Exploratories are like their specials. So that's their PE, music, art, quest, and STEAM classes. So this is also where those organization skills kick in a little bit, and those executive functioning skills, and they're going to have to learn to be a little bit more organized. Where in elementary school, all of their supplies stay in a desk. They now have a locker. They are not allowed to carry backpacks around. We did that for COVID just because we didn't want all the kids bunched up at the locker, but now they are back to using their locker. Some kids figure this out within the first couple of weeks of school. It takes them a little bit to get used to that. And then a few of the kids will struggle with that, and that's okay. We expect that. We want them to make mistakes so that they can learn. And we have a lot of tools and strategies for kids that need a little bit more support with the organization and executive functioning skills. So as long as usually their teachers are going to notice that right away, and they're going to try to do things to help them. If not, they will call me. Lots of times the kids will self-refer and reach out and say like, hey, I need help with this to me. Or as a parent, you could also reach out to me as well and say like, hey, my kid's really struggling with this. It's been a couple of weeks. They haven't figured it out on their own, so that we can support them here. In elementary school, the kids use Google Classroom. That is like their online platform for their schoolwork. In middle school, it's a little bit different. We still use Google for things, but everything is housed in PowerSchool and Schoology. And Ms. Hughes is going to talk about that next. So you know, as a parent, what you can do, how you can support your kids using those tools. At elementary school, the Chromebooks stay at school, where once they come to middle school, they actually get to take their Chromebooks home. So all of their homework and everything will most likely be in PowerSchool or Schoology. Sorry, not in PowerSchool, will be in Schoology. So you will have access to that at home. And then the other difference is just the supports they have, where they really just have interventionists for math and reading, and then psych and social work support. At the elementary school, all students get a school counselor come middle school. So let me just mute this person so you can fully see this. But just to give you an idea of what our schedule looks like it looks more confusing than it actually is. Once the kids live it for a couple days, it makes sense to them. And so periods typically go in order, and usually the first trimester, it starts A, B, C, D, and then they throw X in there just to confuse everybody. And then there's E, D, S, and F. So we have one day that has 7 periods, that has all your 5 academics, and then your 2 exploratories. And then another day, which is our Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, that we throw something called DS in there. And what that is a study hall period for the kids, really, that's called direct study. They can use that to get homework done. They can use that to see teachers for extra help. They can use that if they want to make a counseling appointment and need help with something. And that's also where the music practices come in. So for some of the kids, they might lose a day of direct study to do their music practice. This, I just want to put out there that this is our schedule this year. Like every year we come back over the summer and there's little tweaks and changes. So it could look like this, or there might be some differences to it, but generally this is kind of how our schedule runs. French and Spanish kids do not take until 7th and 8th grade. So kind of like the music program works, where I think you had something came home where you got to choose whether your kid wanted band, chorus, or general music. Something will come home like that, where they get to choose French or Spanish as well. And now I'm going to have Sarah talk a little bit about Schoology. Sarah, can you access, like, push on things from yours, or do you need me to click for you?
Yeah, I'll need you to advance it for me.
Okay.
So I think as I was watching the video again of the teachers saying hello, I think one of the things that stands out to me is, like, the theme for middle school really should be to embrace new opportunities, try new things, and really to create independence. These are going to be the 3 years that you really have the time to try to create an independent learner, and all students are different, but in elementary school, certainly our kids are not independent. And the way that the school system is set up, there's lots of communication between school and home. And I think that there's still a lot of communication between school and home in middle school, but it's certainly different. We have to remember that teachers now, they don't have that classroom of 20 or 25 students. They now have they now are responsible for 200 students, or actually, because there's 2 teams, they're responsible for 100, 110 students. So the communication is not the same. So our goal, to partner along with you, is to help create, independent students. And it's hard at first. And I know with my 3 kids, they're all very different. My one that's starting middle school is very much so not going to be independent. And it's going to take a lot more. But my goal as his parent is by 8th grade and getting him off to high school, that he is a much more independent student. So one of the things that you will be able to do is look at something that we have called Schoology. You do not have your own login to Schoology. It is something that your student will have to share with you. But like Jess said, they have a Chromebook that goes home with them every day. And when they open up their Chromebook, Schoology is one of the icon apps that they will click on. I would ask them, starting that first week of school, to share it with you. All classrooms are run with Schoology. All teachers set it up the same way. When they click on this icon, they will be able to go in. They will see each of their periods of the day. So they'll see world regions. They can click on their world regions class. They will have folders within that class where they can see what they did week 1, week 2.
You can sign up with everyone.
Again, you don't have access to Schoology. We don't give a parent login for it. It's one of those tools to help teach independence. It is something that just your student has. But if they're absent from class, say there was a family emergency, or say they were sick, but like not really, really sick, and they still wanted to kind of follow along with what was going on in class that day, they can actually go onto Schoology to each of their classes, and they can see a checklist or a calendar of what each class did that day. And what assignments they had. In some of their classes like math, they still do a lot of paper pencil assignments, but they will still be listed in Schoology. But as they go up through the grades, like I'm 7th grade this year, they don't do any paper pencil assignments. It's all on Schoology. They actually fill out assignments right on Schoology and they click submit and it gets sent to the teacher electronically. So I would, again, encourage your child to come home and show you, like open up Schoology, check out the calendar, check how you can see every day what they're doing. So when you know, at some point, if your student comes home and says, yeah, I have no idea what they did today, they do know what they did today. It's programmed into our kids starting day 1 of 6th grade. In every single classroom we use Schoology. They can see and access what they've done every day in that class all year long.
Sarah, can I just add to that, that I feel like it's great too, as a parent, if your kid tells you, oh, I handed that in, or I don't have it at home to do, usually you can pull that up and they can either type right in it and submit it, or they can print it out so that they have it at home. Especially for our kids that are not as organized. I feel like sometimes they come home, you know, they have homework, but they don't have what they need at home. So it's all right there for you. Do you want me to do the video?
I didn't even, yes, that's great.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. So now that your children will be learning online, many of you have questions on what that's going to look like. So hopefully this video can answer some of your questions. The first thing your children are going to do is they're going to go to berlinschools.org. Once they do that and they scroll down, underneath students, they will see a link to Schoology. They're simply going to click on top of that link. When they do that, they're going to be prompted to sign into their Google account. And then once they do that, have access to their Schoology page. In this online learning management system, the page defaults to recent activity, where they will see all of their messages from their teachers right there. They can also click on top of course dashboard, where they will see all of their courses that they're participating in. So for instance, students that are in my digital literacy class would simply click right on top of the digital literacy link. Teachers are working super hard to streamline the information so that students are not overwhelmed. As you can see here, there are 2 folders that my students are looking at. One is a welcome folder, and one is a folder that says lessons March 25th through 30th. If they click the caret to the left-hand side, they can see a shortcut to all the different things that they're going to be working on. Or if they click right on top of the title of the folder, that will open up just the folder. And then your children are just going to start from the top and move through the bottom. Teachers can add in different types of materials. Right here is a link to a Zoom meeting. So directions are very clear. Join the Zoom meeting, click on the link below. So my students would come over here and simply click right on top of this link, and it will take them to their Zoom meeting. Underneath that are their directions for this week. Welcome back to school. I'm so happy to be working together again. You have 3 jobs to complete by midnight on Monday, March 30th. Here are their 3 jobs. Teachers have also shared their different office hours. Here's a link to a warm-up activity. So my students will click here and they will be brought to a warm-up activity. Likewise, here's an assignment and a discussion board. And then underneath are different resources. For students who are getting assignments within Schoology, if they click on top of the assignment opens up. It explains what the assignment is. And then they click on the My Document tab. As you can see here, it takes a moment, but their document will load right underneath, right here. And it's loading, it's doing its job. And so my students see that they need to complete this file. and then they would simply hit submit assignment. Once they do that, the teacher gets the assignment and can correct it and send it back to the student or accept it as is. When students are done with their assignments, they can go back, and here they are right where they started. Schoology also has a really great communication tool. On the left-hand side of your children's Schoology course, if they click on top of the updates button, they will see all of the different messages that the teacher for that course has recently posted. In the upper right-hand corner, there's also an envelope. Teachers can communicate directly with students through this envelope. Students will know if they have a message because they would see a little number 1 or a little number 2, depending on how many messages they have. Students can also write messages if they click on the new message link. Along the right-hand side, students will see exactly what's due and when it's due. All right, and that completes our introductory course to Schoology. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, or please feel free to reach out to your teacher. Thank you.
Okay, so if you're not overwhelmed, I'm not, depending on your age, college, that's what maybe grad school looked like for me. Some sort of an online management system like that. Your student will have so much experience in it that they will be able to teach all of that to you and let you kind of navigate around Schoology at some point if you ask them to show you. The 6th grade teachers, so you know, are unique to the 7th and 8th grade teachers because they are actually all elementary trained. In order to teach 6th grade, you have to have the certification in elementary. So I feel like they're like they're just the perfect teachers to transition them up to middle school. They take baby steps and they will spoon feed all of this to them and kind of get them into the habit of using Schoology like Danielle just taught you. And they do it without even blinking by halfway through the school year. They do everything on Schoology. But again, like Jess said, if your student comes home and says they have no idea, you know, where an assignment is, or they can't get it, or they don't have access to it, or they forgot it at school, as you can see, they're not likely being 100% truthful about it. All of the things that they need are in Schoology. Okay, you can go on to PowerSchool. So PowerSchool, you used probably at the elementary level. I know in my district we use PowerSchool also, but students don't. My 6th grader gets some grades more like final grades. PowerSchool here is basically like looking at an online grade book. Just like when we were younger and teachers would have their red grade book where they'd put an assignment in and you'd get to see what your grade is. You will have the opportunity anytime you wish to go into PowerSchool. You can have it as an app on your phone, or you can go in through your computer to be able to go into each teacher's gradebook. With that said, they are like a traditional gradebook. They are not always live in real time, up to date. So if a teacher gives an assignment, it will be at the discretion of the teacher how quickly that grade gets put into the computer. So sometimes kids will come home and they'll say, it says I have a 0, but I actually submitted it. If they happen to have submitted it late, most teachers will code their grade book with a little symbol that something was handed in late, or that something was missing. You'll see there's a key at the bottom, and you'll be able to decipher the code. But as soon as the teacher has the grade available, they will put it into PowerSchool so you can see what your student got for a grade. If you still see zeros, you know, encourage your child to contact the teacher and find out, did something happen? Did something truly not get handed in? Has it just not been graded? Most teachers, 6th through 8th, use zeros as placeholders. So even if your child is absent and they haven't handed something in, it'll often say it's a 0. It'll have the little code next to it that they were absent, but that it's missing. It's just a placeholder. It's not to say they're getting a 0. They will have plenty of opportunity to make up that work. A lot of parents, when they first start seeing zeros, they're instantly calling the teacher. This is one of those moments where we encourage the independence, and we encourage you to have your child contact their teacher, either in person or via email or something like that, and let them try to problem solve a little bit with whatever was going on with their grade. We put at the bottom caution, don't be obsessive with this, because we do have a lot of parents when they're first using this that, so, like we can go on and see how frequently parents access PowerSchool, and you'll see parents like 6-7 times a day. We encourage you not to do that. Again, teachers are really busy, so not all grades are instantly put in there. And we also encourage the students to not get obsessive with it also. And we teach that in a first lesson to them that, checking it once or twice a week is great, but they should not be on PowerSchool every single day, panicking about the grades. So developing good study habits, certainly the rigor of middle school, they will feel starting in 6th grade. Again, as I said before, these teachers are trained elementary school teachers. They are going to take baby steps. They're going to slowly increase their workload from what they had last year, slowly encouraging them to be independently studying for things, but teaching them the skills all along the way. We hope that you're helping to foster this independence. Organization is probably one of the biggest keys coming into middle school. Lots of students struggle with organization. The teachers really try to help them with that. I know even in 6th grade in math right away, they walk them through exactly what they want their binder to look like, which sections they have in their binders and things like that. Schoology is something that's going to help them with their organization a little bit, but they still need to carry around papers and have a way to keep track of that stuff. They will have larger assignments, which I know from just my own child, his experience in elementary school, he didn't have a ton of large assignments. So it's good to kind of help break that down for them, help them plan out maybe a little calendar of when to get things done. Teachers will announce when they're giving tests and quizzes, and they try not to give too many tests and quizzes in multiple subjects on the same day, maybe help them plan out how they will study for that and how far in advance. They will have homework every night other than Fridays, whether it's a few math problems 4 days a week, or to finish up something that they did not finish in their reading or writing class. Know that if they're coming home every day saying they don't have homework, maybe check into it a little bit more. As Jess said, we do have directed study, that study hall 3 days a week. Some kids are really efficient with that time and do get their homework done, but there are other days that they may not get everything done. As your child goes up through school, so the difference between 6th and 7th grade rigor wise is quite an increase. So the more in 6th grade that you can help foster the independence, staying organized, being on top of assignments, studying for things when they need to, the easier the transition to 7th grade will be. Okay, so the social scene in middle school changes a little bit. This is the first time that we're taking our 3 elementary schools, we're bringing them together. Many of your students do sports, so they do know each other, but not everybody. And so we encourage you or your child to try new things. We have more, sports available for the first time to students. Many of them have done rec sports and things like this, but now we have school-based sports. We have lots of clubs and activities. There will be a list that goes out to you in the beginning of the year, and who the person or people are that run the groups and when they meet. Encourage your child to try new things. Certainly friendships, you will start to see friendships change because they're being brought in with 2 other schools. Kids get to meet other people for the first time or see people they haven't seen since preschool and things like that. We see lots of ups and downs in friendships during this time. But again, trying to promote their independence, encouraging them to try to solve problems on their own, and knowing they're adults in the building. One of the questions we ask kids every year, multiple times a year, even in written form, are who are your adults in the building, a trusted adult that you can go to. We obviously hope that we are one of them as the school counselors, because we are the one person that stays constant in their life for 3 years. But we love to know, oh, it's Mrs. Mahaffey, she's my math teacher, and I could always go to her. But we like to know who their trusted adult is in the building, because we are sort of, we're stepping in to help parent them while they're here, and you are not. Along with the social scene comes social media use. Many students in 6th grade still don't have cell phones, but I would say the majority of our students do. We do not allow cell phones out in our building at all. They are to be left in their lockers, and that also includes Apple Watches. They're not allowed to have any smartwatches at all during the day. We do take away things like watches and cell phones. Again, when 6th graders first come here and they're not really used to that rule, they will be relaxed about it. But eventually, pretty quickly, they're going to learn that rule. And if we see AirPods out or watches on or a phone out, they will be taken and brought to the office. We have like what do they call it? The
Phone jail or something like that.
Yes, the cell phone jail or something like that. And the first time your student is caught with a cell phone, it goes to the phone jail till the end of the day, and then your child gets their cell phone back on their way out to the bus. But then after that, it becomes inconvenient for parents in that you have to come and pick it up from the building if they continue to have it out and get caught. I will say, and I am equally as guilty, the majority of the time that I've been in a classroom or in the lunchroom or somewhere and a student has been really obvious on their cell phone or something and I've had to confiscate it, usually when you say you're not allowed to have your cell phone out, it's supposed to be in your locker, they usually say, well, I was texting my mom or I was texting my dad. Typically that's who they are communicating with. And again, I'm guilty of it also, sending my 6th grader a message to his watch during the day. We try to encourage them to call you from the office if they need to get in touch with you to tell you maybe after school plans changed or something like that. In addition to that, we really don't want the cell phones out because we don't need TikToks being made in the bathroom and things like that, which have obviously occurred. I would assume again next year, we did it this year, we will do a coffee for the counselors all on social media use. Many of your children are not 13 years old at this point, and the majority of the platforms that they use require students to be 13 years old in order to be using them. We encourage you to look into that stuff, or at least to be really, really heavily monitoring their, social media use. The majority of student conflict that we see, much of it happens on social media. And to be honest with you, much of it happens outside of school. A lot of students think because it's happening outside of school on social media that, it's not something that the school gets involved with or handles, but that's not the case. As soon as some sort of a situation comes into the building and is distracting someone's learning, it immediately becomes our problem. It goes to administration and they start investigating. So we really, hope that you're monitoring what they are doing on social media, just to try to squash some of the stuff.
I skipped over Whole bunch of slides. Sorry about that. There we go.
All right,
All right.
Ashley.
So we understand that middle school is a huge transition, not just for kids, but for parents as well. And moving up from elementary to the middle school, as Sarah said, the social scene gets way more complex, right? They're meeting lots of new kids, lots of different personalities in their classrooms. The work is obviously going to get harder as kids are moving from elementary. And some kids do great with this transition because for some kids, that constant movement and transition to different classes is really helpful, especially if you have a kid that, you know, struggles with ADHD or ADD. The natural transitions in classes can sometimes facilitate a really smooth transition, actually. So I know that a lot of times we think like we all have those memories of middle school, and they're, for most of us, middle school is not, a lot of people don't have fond memories of middle school for lots of different reasons, right? It's a tough time for a lot of kids, but you know, try to shift your kids' mindset. If they're thinking all the negatives of what middle school could be, there's lots of positives in middle school, right? So they get a lot more independence, they move around, they have lots of different teachers. So if there's one teacher that they're, you know, not really clicking with, well, they have 6 other teachers that they have throughout their day too. So try to help shift that mindset from, you know, the negative to the positive in that regard. But one of the greatest adjustments that kids have is just the change in routine, right? So that change in their typical, where they're, you know, in the same class with the same kids and the same teacher all day long. So we encourage you to check in with your child throughout the summer. So not, you know, the week leading up to school. Check in with your child over the summer and kind of open that communication with them about how they're feeling. How are they feeling about meeting kids from other schools? How are they feeling about, you know, their performance or how they did in their 5th grade year? And what are some things that they want to change or do differently as they go to middle school? You know, maybe they're naturally more introverted and they really want to see, you know, they really want to push themselves out of that comfort zone a little bit and meeting new people and joining new things. Talk to them about their worries, their challenges, so that you can have that discussion ahead of time and kind of plan ahead. Again, sometimes kids, you know, just think like the worst of a situation or the worst of what something could be, and just having a conversation about it can kind of bring them down a little bit and kind of help them to realize like, okay, like I got this, this isn't going to be that bad. And it's also helpful for you as a parent too, to just talk through those things. Establish and reestablish routine. So again, we said like the biggest adjustment for them is that routine. So kids thrive off of structure and routine. So if you know that mornings are generally tough for everyone in the household, practice that, you know, wake up time a few weeks prior to the first day of school. You know, getting into that new routine a couple of days before school starts is probably not going to be the best thing, because it's just, we all know it's chaotic in those couple of days leading up to the first day of school. There's lots of things going on. You're trying to get everything your kids need. Some of you may have multiple kids in different grade levels, different transitions going on. So try to do that a week or two, a couple weeks before the start of school. If you know you're going to be waking your child up at, 5:30 for shower, breakfast, all that, start doing that prior. So they get used to waking up early. I know me, I always say that I'm going to do that, and it doesn't always work out that way because I don't want to get up earlier than I need to either. But I know that when we do that, it's just one of those things that just makes it easier. It's not such a shock to their bodies to be getting out of bed at that time. So I do encourage kids can get breakfast here. It is free this year as it is for the elementary schools. I don't know what that will look like next year. So if your child isn't one to want to get breakfast at school, like make sure they have something before. They could have a really early lunch, or they could have, the later lunch. It just depends on the schedule. So consider that as part of your morning routine. Regular bedtimes, being consistent. And when we know there's things that come up, there's sports that, you might have a later bedtime on certain nights than others, but try to have a consistent, regular bedtime routine. Sleep is obviously, as we all know, super important to kids' mood, their ability to maintain attention and focus in school. They're going to be going to school earlier than elementary. So that in and of itself is going to take some adjusting. And again, going back to setting up for success, having them start that earlier bedtime routine a couple weeks before school starts to get their bodies rested and kind of in that routine.
Ash,
Making sure.
Sorry, I don't know if we gave them the school start time, just so they know the difference between elementary school.
Yep. So school here, the kids can come in the building, enter the building at 7:20. So buses are typically dropping off 7:20. If you're dropping your child off to school, the buses go through first and then the parent line you can drop off. So 7:20, the first class starts at 7:35. It's 7:35, right?
I don't know if it's changing next year. It might change by
It
5
could
minutes.
change.
We're
I think
7:35.
it actually is changing to
I
5
think it
by
is
5
changing,
minutes
yeah.
next year. But 7:20 is, is the time that students can enter the building. And then the day ends at 2:20 right now. That, I don't think that's changing. It should be 2:20. Where did I leave off? So, after school, setting up, making sure that there's a space in your home where they can get their work done. So I know, and they're going to be getting home earlier than maybe if you have elementary siblings. So sometimes that can be a distractor for kids if their siblings are home and they're, running around and it's loud or chaotic, or just try to find a space where your child can go to each day to get their homework done. And when they do their homework is different for every kid. Some families may expect that when their kid gets home from school that they sit down and get their homework done right away. Some kids need that break. So some kids need to take that hour break to just like relax or chill out, have a snack, watch some TV, just to take like a mental break from the day and then get into it. So whatever routine works best for your family. But if you know that they have practice and you're going to be getting home late, then that homework needs to get done prior. And, again, that's a huge adjustment for kids. I'm not sure what they get for homework in elementary. I don't imagine it's much. So that is a transition for them when they get here. But I will say that the 6th grade teachers are pretty standard with what their homework is. Like I know Miss Mahaffey has a math sheet for the week and they have to turn it in on Fridays. I know that Miss McCorkle for ELA, kids have to read 20 minutes every night and do a job. So like, it's pretty consistent with what they have to do. So they will get into the routine and they will know like, okay, as soon as I get home, I'm going to get my ELA homework done. And again, we have DS 3 times a week. If kids take advantage of that time, they really shouldn't be coming home with a ton of homework, to be honest. They do have that time built into the school day 3 days a week. So I don't want you to think they're going to be coming home with hours of homework in 6th grade. They won't be. Unless they're not doing what they need to do in class. If they don't finish classwork that was meant to be classwork, then the teacher may say, okay, well, now you have to bring it home and finish it for homework. So that there's that piece too. Phone and electronics put away. Sometimes when kids get out of here, it's like when they're walking to their buses, like they can't wait to get their hands on their phones. And it's like, it's an addiction for a lot of kids so that they haven't had it all day. Like they want to be on their phones after school. But that's going to be a distraction to them getting their homework done. So, maybe you have a policy in your home where let me see your homework first, and then that's the key to get your phone back for your phone for the afternoon. So do they need help managing time for schoolwork, after school activities, family time? I know that it's a balance, but the important thing is that you're reiterating your expectations and being consistent with those expectations and not wavering from that. Obviously things are going to come up, but if your expectation is when they get off the bus, they're getting a snack and sitting down doing your homework, stick to that routine. And kids thrive on routine and consistency. That's going to be your best bet with that. One other thing I would recommend, every Friday, or at least maybe every other week, I would recommend building into your routine on a Friday or a Sunday, doing a binder clean out of some sort. So a lot of kids bring those K-sits, like those big binders, and everything gets stuffed in there and it really quickly becomes a disorganized disaster. And kids may have their homework, but they can't find it and they don't turn it in. So I would recommend every week going through your child's binder and throwing out things you don't need, having a separate filing system at home. So maybe there's something that they want to hold on to from ELA that they might need for a test, but they don't need in their binder every single day. So keeping that out in a separate kind of filing system at home can kind of help them. And that's really important to stay consistent with every week, because like I said, it quickly, you should see some of these kids' binders. Like, I don't know how they find anything in those binders. So, and each class will also have may have a different system. Like I know Miss Botticello for math, she requires a specific math binder. So if I were you, I wouldn't go out and buy them anything really until you get those lists from their teachers that may not come out until the first day. And I know that can be kind of annoying for some parents who like to just have that stuff all ahead of time. We just don't want you spending money and then finding out that your kid needs a whole separate system for a certain class. So those are just some recommendations for before the school year starts and throughout the school year, maintaining kind of your routine. Communication chain. So who do I reach out to first? Okay. So sometimes there's situations that go on in the first, as a parent, if you hear that, your child is being teased or they say that they're being bullied, you jump into parent mode, right? And you want to protect them. And sometimes the first thing you think is like, I'm calling the principal of the school and I'm reporting this and we're going to file a bullying investigation. And we kind of jump to like the top first. So administration is great here. They're always, available to talk, right? But we want to try and handle situations first before we jump right to, contacting the principal necessarily. So you have lots of people at school to support you, and we just want you to be able to access those supports. So the first person you should be reaching out to for like any academic issue in the class would be their teacher. Okay. So if you're having an issue, if your child is having an issue in the class with, not understanding something or feeling like they need certain accommodations in the class that they're not getting. Maybe your child in class like really needs to have a break at some point. Like if math is a source of frustration for your child, maybe you want the teacher to, allow them to have a break when needed. If your child comes home and says, so-and-so is not giving me a break when I need it, and they're not letting me use the bathroom, or they're not letting me talk to the teacher first. Teachers are available the best way to reach teachers is email, because they're not always able to pick up the phone. If they're teaching, they're not going to be able to answer a phone call. So the best way to reach out to teachers is via email. And I believe they're supposed to respond within 24 hours. So, and if they don't, it doesn't mean that they're ignoring you. Sometimes things get lost in the shuffle. So don't jump to that. Sometimes, a second email, a follow-up email, if you're not hearing from the teacher, or there's a greater concern with a peer issue that maybe your child has tried to work out and it hasn't gotten worked out yet, then you would contact Ms. Stevenson. She's your main point of contact for something like that. So any emotional issues, if there's concerns at home, sometimes there's things going on at home with the family that the parent wants to communicate with someone at the school, but they don't want to have to go over it with, 7 different teachers. If you share that stuff with Ms. Stevenson, she can then disseminate what you allow with teachers. We meet with teams every single week. So every week we sit down with the team of teachers and discuss, any concerns that are popping up with kids. If there's a situation, that a parent has brought up that, you want disseminated, that would be a time that Ms. Stevenson could share it with the whole team at once. And then, if all else fails and you've tried working it out with the teacher, you've communicated with Ms. Stevenson, then, again, administration is always there as well. As counselors, we try to separate ourselves from any disciplinary issues. So if there's a situation that's coming up with your child, we might take a statement from the child and then share that with administration. So as of right now, your administrator would be Mr. Cheverini is your main point of contact for the 6th grade. And so again, sometimes we will give those things to Mr. Cheverini and he would handle if it becomes like a disciplinary issue. If something rises to the level of like a bullying investigation that's requested, Mr. Cheverini would also be handling that. So typically any behavior or issues that can't be resolved by the teacher or the counselor would then go to administration. Did I miss anything, Jess or Sarah, with that? I think
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we just wanted to share a few scenarios, and I know that we're actually running out of time. If anyone has to leave, again, we are recording this, but there's just a couple more slides. So if you can put in the chat any responses or thoughts that you have to this scenario. So your child reports that a student in their class is bothering or teasing them. What are your first steps? If you want to take a minute or two and just answer how you would handle that in the chat. I'm seeing contact the teacher, call the teacher and get details. Counselor, contact, talk with my child about what happened and educate on how to react, contact teacher. So those are all, so yeah. So the first thing that I would do is definitely talk to your child about, what's going on, how often it's happening. I always encourage the child to try to be an advocate for themselves and try to work through what's going on in class, but it is best to let the teacher know so that they can keep an eye on things. that way, because they're the eyes in the classroom. So I would contact the counselor if it's continuing beyond after you've notified the teacher of it. And sometimes the teachers will also loop us into it as well. But the best thing to do first is, again, talk to your child about the situation. Sometimes, because we tell kids sometimes, like if it's teasing, sometimes the best thing to do is, not give it attention, right? So we always tell kids, like, try to ignore. If it's becoming a situation where you can't ignore and it's every day, obviously that's not okay. If it's becoming a situation where your child doesn't want to go to class because of this child, that's also not okay. So definitely talk to the teacher first. And then if you feel like it's not being handled, in the way that you want it to be handled. And again, you can also contact the counselor as well, but I would definitely start with the teacher first with that situation.
I also add to that, like, too, because we're trying to get the kids to be a little bit more independent. I would encourage them to speak to their teacher.
Yes.
Especially come out middle school where they use their email a lot. So especially for kids that are maybe nervous to say something to the teacher, shooting an email saying like, hey, can I talk to you after class? Or this is going on with this peer. Can you help me? So it also puts them in the driver's seat instead of you as a parent having to be the one resolving the issues for them. We really want to teach them to be able to problem solve and start resolving things on their own.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so the second scenario, your child sends you a text during the day saying they're upset and feeling anxious and that they want you to pick them up from school. What do you do? We'll give everyone a minute to answer that.
So, this situation happens a lot. We have kids that'll be in the bathrooms with their phones, texting their mom, telling them they want to come home. They're having the worst day ever. It's okay to out yourself if you are going to run in here and pick them up. We get it.
Yeah, and we'll tell you the worst thing you can do is come pick them up. We really don't, and we get, like, it's hard to get a call from your child if they're upset. But the worst thing that you could do is pick them up. Indicate something pretty impactful. Based on this, I would pick her up if I know what's going on. So we're done. Okay, so ask my child details about what, why, when, then might call the teacher. So we want kids to use the resources they have here at school. So if your child is calling and saying that, we would definitely recommend that you call us, so that we can try and talk them through it first. I agree that if, that's not typical for your child, that there must be something big going on, but we want them to seek the resources in the school building first. We will certainly, if your child wants to call you, if there's something really significant going on and they really want to call home, we will allow them to do that. Sometimes parents say, no, don't let them call me because it's just going to make it worse. So in certain situations, we will let them call you with us. But what Ms. Hughes said is we don't want kids in the bathroom by themselves, reaching out to you, because there's no one in there in the moment that's going to be able to help. We want them to seek us out. And again, if Ms. Stevenson isn't available, myself or Ms. Hughes is available, or we will find someone that can talk to your child. Okay. Tell them to shut up their phone and put it away. Tell them to, yes. So perfect. So again, they should not be on their phone during the school day. And Ms. Stevenson will reiterate again in that first lesson she does with them, how they can reach out to her for support if they need it. All right, so clubs and sports really quickly. This year we had a 6th grade club expo. I'm not sure if it will be done next year, but regardless, kids will know what clubs are available. And throughout the school, there's screens posted with announcements every day. They're also read over the intercom. So there are lots of different clubs that are available. Kids will get that information. I think it's disseminated usually through DS, but we have lots of different options for kids, lots of ways for kids to get involved. As Mr. Rossi said in his video, don't be afraid of trying new things. So encourage your child. This is the best way for kids to meet other kids, especially if they're more shy or introverted. There's so many ways that they can become involved here at McGee, through clubs and through sports. And for sports, I do just want to mention from the nurses' end that they need a physical on file within 13 months, or they can't even try out. So if you know that your child is going to be trying out for any of those listed sports, definitely make sure that they have a physical on file for the start of the year, so that you're not in a situation where your kid misses the tryout because they didn't have that. So, and it does, again, have to be within the last 13 months. Prior physicals aren't required typically until 7th grade. It's kindergarten and 7th grade are the 2 points. But again, a lot of kids play sports, so most kids will need that done for the year. All right, and ways to contact us. We've listed our emails right there. Those are all of our extensions. We do also have an Instagram page that we encourage you to follow. We share lots of different things on there, events that are going on in school, tips that we have for parents, things like that. So if you have Instagram, definitely follow us. And again, we are all here to help. If you can't reach Miss Stevenson, again, one of us can help you out, and everyone in the main office is super helpful as well. So if there's a question that you have and you're not sure who to go to for the answer, Miss Lord in the office is great. Miss Kelly, they can always help, and they're always there. And you should always hear back from someone within 24 hours of reaching out. Okay. All right, so we have time I know that we are over by like 10 minutes. So if anyone has questions, feel free to ask. We will hang on if you have to leave. We understand and we appreciate the turnout for today. This is a great turnout, and we hope that the information that we shared was helpful. We hope that kind of puts your mind at ease. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's a lot of information, but again, we are going to be here to help you and your child every step of the way. So we want everyone to feel as though they have somewhere to go if they have questions. So we are here.
Yes, people are asking if we're sending the presentation. We will be sending the presentation. So once we're done, I will send that out probably over Messenger, and I'll see maybe if they can also put it on our website for people to seek it out.
Yep, it may take a couple of days because the video has to be converted to a YouTube file. So be on the lookout for it. It should maybe come toward the end of this week, if not early next week.
A question about Quest. Quest is actually more an 8th grade class. So it's digital literacy, I believe, in 6th and 7th. And where they're learning how to use online resources. And then by 8th grade, they do a project that is based off of something that they're interested in. So it could be they have an interest in sea animals. So they do a big project on sea animals. Usually there's some actionable tied to it. So they use the skills from 6th and 7th to do that in 8th. Buses, you should get a bus schedule. There should be something that comes home over the summer so that you know where your bus stop is and when the time of your bus stop, so you can figure out what time kids need to get up, being as they're going to be getting up earlier. If for some reason you don't get that, I would call the Board of Ed, should be able to help you with that if you feel like you haven't gotten the information you need. Any other questions? You can also, if you don't want to type it in the chat, you can also unmute and just ask a question if you want. The 5-minute start time would, I think it's 5-minute start time. Was it going to be earlier, 5 minutes earlier?
No, I think that we're going 5 minutes later. It
Yeah.
used to be 5 minutes later. We switched it to 5 minutes earlier, and then we just had a chronic tardy issue. So I think we're going back to 5 minutes later.
Yeah, I think so too.
So it would be the 7:35.
Yeah.
And just so you know,
we
the traffic out here in the morning, if you are planning on not putting your kid on the bus, it's a lot. So if you have to be somewhere, you might want to consider that and factor that into the timing. We do have kids that are late because they're in there outside sitting in traffic.
Especially on a rainy day. A lot of parents decide to drive their kids in on a rainy day, and then it becomes
Snowy day, yeah.
Yep. One thing that we didn't talk about that I just want to mention really quickly is attendance. So attendance is really important. You will get, we're mandated to send out, letters for attendance if your child reaches a certain number of absences. The important thing to remember is that if your child is absent and you call it in, it's going to be marked like excused, but also not excused in the system until they get something written. And I know that it sounds like it's a state thing. I don't know why, but you have to send in a written note for the child's absence, and then they'll change it to like a fully excused absence. So if you first call them in, or you can send an email and they can print that. I would think they can print that out, but a lot of parents don't realize that, and they send out the information, but in the beginning of the year, you're so bombarded with things that I think sometimes it just gets lost. In the first 9 absences, you as a parent can excuse your child. So if they're sick, you can just write a note, so-and-so was sick on this day. Again, also call them out because they're going to be calling you otherwise. then just have your child bring in a note when they come back to school that following day. After 9 absences, you'll need an actual, like a doctor's note to excuse them. So that's just something to keep in mind.
And we really try to talk to the kids about attendance all along, because by the time we're getting them off to high school, you know, we have students that are chronically tardy, and we try to talk to them about going to the high school, and that can't happen anymore because they won't receive credit for their classes. So by 8th grade, we really try to rein some of that in. I don't believe you can excuse absences over email. I think it has to come on a paper document. Yep.
Oh, I thought they could email Tracy.
I don't, okay, so I didn't think they could. Okay.
Something's changed. So I'm not sure on that one then.
Any other questions?
All right, so then we will stop here. If something comes up over the summer, the office is usually there's somebody there or an administrator. If there's something specific that you have a concern about for your child that you want to contact me. I won't be here a ton over the summer, but as soon as I get that message, I will reach back out to you. Obviously, I'm here for the next couple of days. So if something is pressing or there's just something you're worried about or something you want to process through, feel free to reach out to me. And then I hope you have a nice summer, and I'm excited to see everybody in the fall, or it's actually still the summer because it'll be in August. We're starting this year pretty early.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.